Audrey Hepburn, the very last photo shoot that Audrey Hepburn ever did. And she did it with me, and I'm about to tell you why. Hi, I'm Adam Knott. Welcome to my channel where I give you an insight into the world of celebrity and the stories behind my photos. My one-on-one photo shoot with Audrey Hepburn. I was told that I was only going to be given 1 minute, just 1 minute to photograph her as she's walking past me in a hotel corridor. She ended up giving me 45 minutes and we had a wonderful, wonderful experience. I'll tell you about it now. The backstory. Audrey Hepburn was one of the world's greatest actresses and humanitarians. She won an Oscar, an Emmy, a Grammy, a Tony, BAFTAs. She did it all in acting. She's considered a film and a fashion icon. All her movies went on to become instant classics. But one of the most important things she ever did in her life was that she worked for UNICEF. In the later years of her life, she worked for UNICEF and travelled the world, working in poor communities, helping children in need. We spoke about this extensively when I photographed her. The brief. You've got 1 minute with Audrey Hepburn. She's going to be walking past you down a hotel corridor, and we want you to get a photograph, maybe even for the cover of the magazine. Now that's a tough brief. They said she might stop for you, but she might not. It depends how much time she has. And I said, why? Why am I only getting this small amount of time? And they said, she's going to a function held in her honour, and she's going from basically the elevator door to the function room, and she's going to stop off and maybe get a photograph on the way. And I said, that's a tough, tough gig. I said, how can I come up with a great image from a walk by or a walk past? But that's my job as a photographer, and I had a job to do. Before the shoot. Now, stars of Audrey Hepburn's calibre rarely let themselves be photographed by unknown photographers. I was an unknown photographer. I was basically a kid in his 20s. Normally, they get what's called photographer approval. They only let themselves be photographed by the world's best photographers. But for some reason, there was no photographer approval here. They either missed it, didn't want to know about it, or they probably thought, oh, it's just a walk past. We don't need to get photographer approval because there's not going to be much of a shot and it won't appear very big in any publication. I'm not sure why they didn't get photographer approval on this particular occasion, but it worked to my benefit. The location. So we all know it was going to be the hallway of a hotel, but they did give me a hotel room in front of the hallway, and it was an empty hotel room except for a chair and a little side table with a vase of flowers in it. I was like, okay, so I had this big empty hotel room. If I could get Audrey Hepburn into the hotel room, that doesn't sound right. If I could get the sitter to come to the location, that would be a better way of saying it. So that was the goal, was to try and stop her in the hallway, ask her if she could come in and do the shoot, and then hopefully get her to sit in the chair. Now the lighting was actually quite beautiful. It was late afternoon. The sun was bouncing off a building, an office building beside the hotel, and reflecting this beautiful warm light into this particular room. So I opened all the blinds, opened all the curtains, and I just used natural light, available light. Now I was starting to get nervous. I know I'm a photographer and I've got a job to do, but when you're photographing one of the world's biggest stars, and I was just a kid myself, I didn't really have much experience with celebrities. Later on in my career, working for People magazine and other big magazines in the US, I photographed a lot of celebrities and I got used to it pretty quickly. But Audrey Hepburn, she was a living legend, an icon. And so for a kid like me to be photographing her, I started to get nervous. Also, I had the pressure that I had to get a good photograph of this living legend. And I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not. The arrival, and I wasn't expecting it. The PR people said to me, Adam, wait in the hotel room and we will come and let you know when she's about to walk past. So there's me sitting in the hotel room. I'm actually sitting on the chair that I was hopefully going to be photographing Audrey Hepburn in, and I was just waiting, just sitting there waiting, feeling nervous and anxious. And then all of a sudden the door opens and I'm expecting to see the PR person or the public relations person. These people are the managers and caretakers of celebrities. I'll talk about them in a specific episode later. So the door opens and in walks Audrey Hepburn. And I was just so surprised. I was like, oh my goodness, it's Audrey Hepburn herself. So she didn't walk past the room. She actually stopped and came in. And when she walked towards me, it was like she glided. She'd spent many years doing ballet, but she had this incredible posture, and she just glided towards me and she was smiling. And I'll never forget thinking, oh my goodness, Audrey Hepburn is walking towards me and smiling, and I wasn't quite sure what to do. When I get nervous, I actually get very serious. I should have just smiled back, but I didn't. I walked up to her and I said, oh, hello, Miss Hepburn. I'm Adam. I'm the photographer, and I'll be photographing you today. And when I look back, I think, of course I was the photographer. I was the person standing there with the camera around my neck. I was the only person in the room. She knew she was there to be photographed, but she was so lovely with me and so gentle. And she just smiled. And she said, oh, hello, I'm Audrey. And nice to meet you, Adam. And I was just like, oh, wow. Audrey Hepburn said my name. And it was a bizarre sensation and a bizarre feeling for this young photographer. And then I said to her, I've got this lovely chair for you to sit in, and we're going to be using the late afternoon light bouncing off this building to give you this beautiful lighting. And she just looked at me and smiled and said, oh, that's lovely, Adam, that's great. Once again, another silly thing that I said. There's only a chair in the room, one single chair. Of course she's going to sit in it. But I thought, wow, this has gone from a 1 minute walk past, and now I actually have her sitting in the chair in front of me. I was nervous, but I was also excited. The shoot. So Audrey Hepburn is sitting in the chair. And before I started shooting, I thought I'd better just explain myself. And like I said earlier, when I'm nervous, I get very serious. And I said, well, oh, Miss Hepburn, we only have 1 minute, so we've got to be quick. And she just laughed. She just looked at me and laughed and smiled and said, that's okay, Adam. That's okay. So I went back and I did a few shots and then she said, listen, Adam, take your time. Just take your time. I was like, oh, okay. And then she asked me a question. She said, oh, Adam, what have you been shooting lately? And I think she could see, being the great old film star that she was, that she had this young photographer with her. He was keen, enthusiastic, but he was also very nervous. I think she was trying to sort of calm me down or placate me and make me feel comfortable, when really it should have been me trying to make her feel comfortable. But actually I shouldn't hit the mic. Oh, well, hopefully that came out. So I'm supposed to be making her feel comfortable, but she's there making me feel at ease. So what I did, I told her about my previous assignments, and recently I'd just been in Tiananmen Square, China, with the student demonstrations, and I told her about the children and the students that I'd photographed in the square, and I'd also just been to Romania, where I'd just photographed a lot of orphans who were HIV positive. And then I'd also been into Asia and been into refugee camps and told her about children that I'd photographed there and how it makes for such sad photographs, but it's also my job as a photographer to bring awareness to the world and show them what's happening in these camps. Of course, she was working for UNICEF. She loved children and she loved helping children in need. So we talked about that. We talked about these children all over the world, in different parts of the world. She told me where she had just been, and we just discussed things like that, and then I would take a few shots, and then we talked again. It was this wonderful, wonderful experience. And on these particular times, as a photographer, you're thinking, I can't waste time talking, I've got to get the shots. But then I thought, no, this is a genuine life experience, and I thought I've really got to embrace this, because I was getting so much from her and listening to her talk about her work at UNICEF, and I think she appreciated that I was a young man who was trying to do some good in the world with my photography. So I will never forget this experience with Audrey Hepburn. She gave me so much time and so much of herself. And she could have just simply done the 1 minute walk past. She could have just sat in the chair for a couple of minutes and then gone, but she didn't. She stayed there for 45 minutes. And the PR people and the minders would often pop their head in the room, and she would just politely wave them away. And it was just this wonderful experience that I will always cherish. And at the end of the 45 minutes, I said to Miss Hepburn, I think I've got enough. I said, I've got plenty here. I said, thank you so much for giving me so much of your time. I said, this has been so wonderful. And she said, oh, Adam, it's been wonderful for me too. And she stood up and she shook my hand and she said, Adam, it's been lovely talking to you. I said, oh, thank you. And then she just turned around and she sort of like glided out the door again. It was absolutely amazing. So the photographs I've got here today, I love them because I've got a personal attachment to them. It's one of my favourite shoots of all time. It gave me a lot of confidence to continue on in my career as a photographer. And it also gave me this passion and purpose as a photographer, not only as a young man, but as an older man too, always wanting to use my photography to try and bring about awareness to different things that are happening in the world, different situations, because I always feel like that is and always will be my job as a photographer. And why did she give me more than a minute? Why did she give me the 45 minutes instead of the allotted 1 minute or the walk past? I'll never know why. I'm not sure why, but I'm so appreciative that she did. Maybe she knew that it was her last photo shoot. I don't know. I'm not sure if she thought this was the final one that she would ever do. According to Audrey Hepburn aficionados, and there are a lot of them in the world, this is the last one that she ever did. So I'm grateful to her for that, and I'm more grateful for the experience we had and the photographs she gave me. So I hope you liked what you saw today. I hope you liked what you heard today. I do find it a little bit emotional talking about this one. This means a lot to me. Remember, there's other videos and playlists that I have on YouTube about celebrities. I'm going to be doing some how-to videos soon, some other tutorials. Remember, please hit subscribe and like if you've liked this video. It would help me a lot. And there's links to my website where I've got courses, workbooks, all sorts of goodies for you. So I'll see you in the next one.